The Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, page 60 continued, picking up at decreasing annuity. Chapter D. Decreasing annuity. An income stream consisting of evenly spaced periodic payments that decrease in a systematic pattern, also called declining annuity. Dedicated land. Property in public use. For instance, a roadway that was originally from the fee owner also describes land acquired and dedicated for burial purposes. Dedication. A voluntary gift of private property made by the owner for some public use. For instance, the dedication of land for streets and schools in a development. Deductible. Number 1. The amount of money an insured person must pay before the payer begins reimbursement. Number 2. For purposes of taxable income, a type of expense associated with owning or operating real property that may be an offset to income and is deducted from income on a tax return. For instance, mortgage interest on a personal residence. Deed. A written legal instrument that conveys an estate or interest in real estate when it is executed and delivered. Deed description. A recitation of the legal boundaries of a parcel of land as contained in a deed of conveyance. Deed in fee. Sufficient conveyance of a fee simple interest, free of all. Page 61. Encumbrances, with the usual covenants of the grantor. Deed in lieu. A deed given by an owner or debtor in lieu of foreclosure by the lender or mortgagee. See also foreclosure. Deed of release. A legal instrument signed and acknowledged by the mortgagee, by which the mortgaged property is absolved from the lien of the mortgage. Deed of trust. A legal instrument similar to a mortgage document, except that 3 parties are involved in securing the debt: the borrower, a lender, and a trustee who holds property title when the deed of trust is executed and delivered. The trustee transfers title to the lender if the borrower defaults, and to the borrower if the note is repaid, also called a trust deed. Deed restriction. A provision written into a deed that limits the use of land. Deed restrictions usually remain in effect when title passes to subsequent owners. De facto contract. A contract that purports to pass a property from the owner to another. Default. The failure to fulfill a contractual agreement. Deficience. Deficience. I don't know how to say it. A legal instrument that defeats the force or operation of another deed or estate. For example, a loan document may contain a stipulation whereby the stream of loan payments may be replaced with securities that can be liquidated as payments become due, releasing the borrower from further obligations and releasing the property as security for the loan. In the strictest sense, such a clause is not a defeasance, but rather a condition in the nature of a defeasance. Defeasible estate. See determinable fee. Defeasible title. A title that can be annulled or made void, but not one that is already void or in absolute nullity. Deferred annuity. An income stream that begins at some point in the future. Deferred income. Income that is not scheduled to commence until a later date and is less valuable than a similar stream of income that begins now. Deferred liability. Liability from transferred real property that does not become an obligation to the transferee until some time after the transfer. Deferred maintenance. Items of wear and tear on a property that should be fixed now to protect the value or income producing ability of the property, such as a broken window, a dead tree, a leak in the roof, or a faulty roof that must be completely replaced. These items are almost always curable. Deficiency. Number 1, an inadequacy in a structure or one of its components. Number 2, in mortgage finance, the difference between the amount of a debt and the market value of the loan collateral. For instance, the real property acquired through foreclosure. Deficiency judgment. Judgment granted in a suit initiated to recover the difference between a legally imposed indebtedness and the dollars received from a foreclosure sale of the debtor's assets. Deficit. Or wait, hold on. Deficit. Is it deficit? Deficit. Never mind. Deficit. An insufficiency of funds. For instance, a deficit in an expense fund. The amount by which the total assets of a business fall short of its total liabilities plus invested capital. Deficit rent. The amount by which market rent exceeds contract rent at the time of the appraisal, created by a lease favorable to the tenant, resulting in a positive leasehold, and may reflect uniformed or unusually motivated parties, special relationships, inferior management, a lease executed in a weaker rental market, or concessions agreed to by the parties.